y'all, welcome to Horse Range Mountain Farm. So today I'm going to be canning tomatoes, and the way that I'm going to can tomatoes is in the oven. And some people are going to be like, in the oven? How can you can tomatoes in the oven? Well, it has been done for years and years. A little lady in the North Georgia mountains here shared a recipe with my mother-in-law, and so my mother-in-law's done it for years, and I started doing it years ago as well. So I'm going to show you how you can can tomatoes in your oven. Now you can fit a lot of jars in the oven versus just 7 jars in a canner. So come along and let's get to canning. Now this is not FDA approved. This would be what you call, what most consider rebel canning. But we know that people have done it for years and years. Nobody's got botulism, nobody's died from it, and we've been okay. So I'm not recommending you do this. You have to do your own research, but this is just what we do. So the first thing I'm going to do is wash all these tomatoes, and then I'm going to take the core out and then take the little bottom off, and then I'm going to put them in a food processor. Then I'm going to dice them, and then I'm going to put them in the jar. So I have a tomato knife, and it's a Rada cutlery tomato knife, and these work really good. I'm just going to core them and then take the little thing off the bottom. And then I'm just going to slice them. And get them ready to go in the food processor. Now I used to boil them and take the skins off and all that, but using the food processor, it gets the skins so ground up so fine that you don't even notice that there's even skins on them. But my mom is the one that showed me to use the food processor, and it makes it so much quicker. Because when you have to boil them and take the skins off of them and all that, it takes a good while. Which that's what I always did until Mom showed me the food processor, and she's like, Tabitha, this is so much quicker. And I was like, oh wow, yeah it is. It's a lot quicker. Now if I make tomato juice, then I do have a tomato press, and what it does is it'll remove all of the seeds and and the skins and everything, and then all you're left with is the juice, and it shoots the skins and seeds out a different chute. So I'll remember whenever I was growing up, we were at my grandparents' house, and they said, you want a tomato biscuit? And I was like, a tomato biscuit? And I tried it, and y'all, that is so good. Tomato biscuits are so good, especially with Granny's homemade biscuits. So if you've got extra biscuits sitting around from breakfast and you got a good tomato out of the garden, there you go, there's your meal. Now, these tomatoes I did not grow. I bought these tomatoes from some folks that we sell some raw milk to. The cow got out and into our garden. The one that I did a YouTube short on about making them into steak. He demolished so much in my garden. I had 2 rows of October beans that looked so beautiful. He went down through there and pulled them up. He ate a bunch of my green beans. He has demolished a bunch of my tomatoes, so I was hoping to have a bunch of tomatoes, but that's what you have to be prepared for on your farm or homestead, is for stuff like that to happen sometimes. Unexpected. That's why you always can extra, because you never know when something might happen. You just never know. So it's always better to be prepared. And thankfully, I put up a bunch of tomatoes last year, but so I know we'll be okay through this winter. I've just got to get a few more canned. So I said, well, I'm just going to go ahead and buy some because I have a few tomatoes left, but it's not as much as I want for canning. Now, I like to usually make diced tomatoes. I like to make tomato juice. I like to make spaghetti sauce. I like to make my grandmother's homemade tomato soup recipe. I love that. And y'all, I used to hate tomato soup, especially Campbell's tomato soup. I did not like it. And so when my mom said, try this tomato soup, I was like, no, I don't want to try that. And she said, well, this is your granny's recipe. And I was like, I hate tomato soup. Well, y'all, I tried it, and it doesn't taste anything like canned store-bought tomato soup. It is so different, and it's so good. And so I love it. So now I can it, and a lot of times I'll have it for like a lunch, or either you can also take the tomato soup as a base for making another soup, like vegetable soup or chili, something like that. You just put it as the base, and then you just add stuff to it, which is really good. So I'm thankful that my grandmother shared it with my mom and that my mom shared it with me. And I'm thankful that my mother-in-law showed me how to can tomatoes in the oven, because it saves a ton of time, y'all. Because you can do so many at one time. Now when you put your jars in the oven, you cannot let the jars touch, because they can break if you do that. Which I'll show y'all that in just a little bit. Now with the tomato soup, as I was telling you, you can use it as a base, but it's really good too if you've got kids. When the boys was little, I would just add a little bit of rice to it, and then you had your like tomato and rice soup, and it was really good. I know that don't sound good, but it actually really is good.
We cut up the tomatoes in the pan, and now we're putting them in the food processor, and we're going to pulse them for a little bit and then put them into the jars.
You don't want to go under there all easy? It might not be lined up. I think you got it that time.
Yeah.
There you go.
And if you pulse them too much, they get too watery. Now we come over here and we pour them in the jars.
Now, do you put sugar in your tomatoes when you can them? I've always just put salt.
That's all I put in mine is salt.
This recipe, they said that they put a little bit of sugar in it. Why did they say to put sugar in it? Just because it removes some of the
Acid.
acid? Okay.
Acidity.
Say that again.
acidity.
And then my tongue gets tied trying to say that too. You just keep fighting with that thing.
Yeah, I do. If you'll hand me
Well,
some
thank
more
you for
jars.
helping me, Mom. Or thanks for doing it for me right now. So I can video. Alright, so we're going to add 1 teaspoon of salt into each of these. And this is my Redmond's real salt. So you don't ever want to use iodized salt when you're canning, y'all. Now this is the recipe that I got from a mother-in-law that was shared with her from Miss Virginia Harkins. And it calls for 1 teaspoon of sugar on top of the tomatoes. And we've already put the salt. So now I'm going to take a teaspoon of raw organic cane sugar, if I can get it up in there, and put it in the tomatoes. So now I'm going to clean the rims off while we're working on the other ones and get these ready to go in the oven. Of course, we'll have a lot more than this. So I'm going to put these jars in here. We just got to make sure that they don't touch, because if they touch, they could
I
break.
always cut it on both sides. Wait a second, we'll get you in there.
20 jars in here, y'all. And we're fixing to start canning them at 250 for 1.5 hours, and then you just leave them in there and let them cool, and they'll seal. I'll show you in a little bit. Alright, so my timer just went off, so I'm going to turn the oven off, and then I'm going to let them cool in the oven. And so once they are totally cooled, then I'll take them out. Now, like I said, this is not approved by the FDA. This is just what the old Tommy Mountain folks have done for years and years, and they've not gotten sick from botulism. So apparently it's okay, but I'm not telling you it's okay. You do your own research. Alright, so here's our canned tomatoes. Of course they're diced. Okay. And they sealed. Now this is just the juice from the tomatoes in the bottom. Once you do like this, it mixes it all up. And you can see the diced tomatoes. So there you have it. That's a pretty easy way to can tomatoes. So y'all don't forget to hit that like, share, and subscribe, and come back for more videos. Thanks for watching, and have a blessed day.